Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Boss Ravioli Queens with your two favorite caregivers, Nicole Ravioli.
Boss Lady Amy.
Hi.
Queen.
Hi. Shameless plug. Dink.
Okay, well, hi, hello, if you're new here. Welcome. We're the Boss Ravioli Queens. Together we have a lot of caregiving experience.
21 years to be exact.
Yeah, that. And so, a couple of years ago, we decided to start a podcast to talk about it. And we talk about all things caregiving, healthcare, trending topics, how they relate to caregiving and healthcare. Yeah, so you can go back and you can watch our old YouTube videos. And you can also stay up to date on the new ones. We release a new video every week. You can also go back and listen to our old podcast episodes back when we were just doing the audio-only versions. However, we are not releasing audio-only versions at this time. But you can still go back and listen to them anywhere you listen to podcasts except Apple, because...
So fired. It's so fired.
So, come along on this journey with us.
The water's fine. Take a dip on this very hot day.
Okay, shameless plug over.
Dink. So, this episode is called Too Hot to Handle, and we're going to be covering what to do with extreme heat if your residents are outside.
Yeah, so the reason why we're recording in a car right now is because neither one of us...
It's too hot!
Yeah, neither one of us have central air in our houses. And to be honest, the car is the most comfortable place to be right now.
Oh, I should probably actually turn my AC down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully y'all heard all of what we just said.
I hope so. If not...
Not redoing it.
No.
Too hot to handle. Gonna cover what to do with your residents if it's too hot outside.
Enjoy looking at our...
Beautiful faces. Bag of biscuits. So, numero uno, if you're in a heat advisory, don't take your residents outside. Don't do it.
Nope.
Don't do it. And always check the weather if you have like a day trip planned with them or something. Because in the summer, what we like to do with our residents is take them to like zoos and parks and all of the fun outside things that you can do during the summer. So, always check the weather to make sure that you're Gucci. Regardless of heat advisories and whatnot, though, you're always going to want to take sunscreen. Anybody that has a hat, like one of the ball caps, to cover their eyes and face from the sun. Because generally, most of the people that we take care of are V-white. Because they're inside for a long time.
Majority of the day.
Yeah. And obviously, like, we like to take them outside at the homes too, but that's not always feasible because it could just be like a bad behavior day, or they could just not want to go outside. That is very much a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the right to refuse to go outside.
Most of them do. Most of them just like to stay inside. They like to stick to their hobbies, and that's it.
Yep.
I mean, I don't blame them.
Creatures of routine and habit.
Yeah, I don't blame them. I mean, I prefer to stay out in my nice, cool... Well, my house isn't that cool. But if it was cool...
It will be.
It will be. But if my house was cool, I would prefer to stay in it.
Yeah. Big facts.
Yeah. So, it's okay if you have to cancel an outing because of the heat.
Sure is.
It's not just, snow or rain or whatever that makes for poor weather.
Mm-hmm.
Heat advisory is also a thing.
And if by chance you forget to check the weather, or it just doesn't show up on the app or site that you go to, always make sure that you're prepared. So you're going to want to take lots of water, because we need to keep our people hydrated. That's the best way to avoid like heat stroke, is drinking cold water. I guess we should probably go over the signs of heat stroke too.
Well, and I feel like we should explain the difference between heat stroke and heat exhaustion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, exhaustion is basically just a lesser form of heat stroke, because regardless, they're gonna be like lethargic. They're looking real iffy. They're gonna be super fatigued. So obviously you want to have them sit in like a shady area and again stay hydrated. Ice packs are a good thing for anything heat exhaustion or heat stroke related.
So the biggest thing between the two is that heat exhaustion is dangerous, but it's not life-threatening. Heat stroke is life-threatening.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, almost like 9 times out of 10, you have to go to the hospital or call 911 for heat stroke.
Yeah.
Heat exhaustion is just...
They're really tired and exhausted.
Yeah. Basically, you've just been out in the sun or the heat way too long. But you can still recuperate without having to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Heat stroke, you're likely going to need...
IV fluids.
I had a member who ended up with heat stroke and was in the hospital for like 3-4 days.
Yeah, heat stroke is really like not something to play with at all. And that's why it's very important to know the signs.
Yeah, so it's real bad.
It's real bad.
And yeah.
It's real bad.
And also too, like once you've gotten to that point, no amount of water or, being inside the cold can help you.
No.
Once you are like that far along, at that point, just get yourself to the hospital or get your member to the hospital.
Yeah.
Heat exhaustion, there's still a time where you can turn it around if you act fast.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've escalated from heat exhaustion to heat stroke, like, just at that point, do yourself a favor, just call 911.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't really have a whole lot to add to that because it's pretty self-explanatory. Most of this is common sense, but I guess for people that don't work in the medical field and don't already know the signs, it is important to familiarize yourself with all of that. And also, it's never not okay to call like the nurse's line and ask them, like, give them your resident's symptoms and get like a second opinion, basically. Mm-hmm. And they'll generally tell you, especially obviously if it's heat stroke, they're going to tell you to bring them in right away. Otherwise, they'll tell you to monitor them at home, and if things don't get better, then bring them in.
Right. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess my number one advice would be when it's this hot, and if you want to take them out, don't.
Don't do it.
Don't. Because whatever outing you had to cancel can always be rescheduled.
Yep.
You're going to have a way easier time with a little bit of disappointment versus potentially having to call 911 for a medical emergency that was caused by heat stroke, which is completely avoidable and preventable.
I'm going to have heat stroke.
If you just keep them inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I don't really know what else there is to talk about on this, other than, like, just be smart about it.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes stuff's gonna happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
like, you could just have a resident that's a little more sensitive to heat. So obviously for those residents, you're going to have to keep a closer eye on those residents, while still making sure your other residents are safe and hydrated and not having heat exhaustion or heat stroke.
Mm-hmm. Like, sometimes just even when you take all the proper precautions, stuff happens.
Yeah.
So like last year, we took a bunch of our residents to this huge zoo in our state, and like, we had plenty of water for this one gal, and she was lathered up with sunscreen, and we even brought along like a bath blanket, and she was in shorts and like a short sleeve shirt, but we covered her up with the bath blanket pretty much all day, and it didn't matter. She ended up with horrible sunburn, and she got, I wouldn't say she got sick, but she was definitely very, very uncomfortable and just distressed from it all day. And we tried really hard to obviously make sure that she stayed out of the sun, and we kept her in the shade, and we kept the bath blanket on her, and we kept giving her water, but it didn't matter. It happened anyway.
So another valid point, I think, to bring up, we talked about this before we started recording, bring blankets, but not for the reason you think. So something I learned a really long time ago when I first started caregiving is that you bring the blanket to get it wet with cold water so you can put it on the resident.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously cold, wet blanket is going to bring the body temperature down a lot faster than just drinking cold water or like eating a popsicle or something. Obviously you still need to keep them hydrated, so yes, they're still going to need to drink the water and eat the popsicles if you have them, but yeah.
I felt terrible because she had some of the worst sunburn I'd ever seen on a client ever, and like I felt so bad, but it was like, I don't know how she got sunburned through the blanket still, but I mean, I guess it,
from the short periods of time where she wasn't wearing the blanket.
Yeah.
It's literally the only way, because the sun can penetrate a lot of things, but not a friggin' bath blanket. For reference, if you've never heard of or seen or used a bath blanket, they're like heavy blankets that you literally use for bed baths, or you take them to the shower to cover the resident up after you're done.
Yeah, they're real thick.
Real thick. On purpose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I felt so bad.
Unavoidable.
And not only that, but it ended up being literally the hottest day of the year, that day that we ended up going.
Oh.
And I was not expecting that. We knew it was going to be record high numbers. We didn't know that it was going to be the literal hottest day of the year.
Sorry about your luck.
Yeah, so it was one of those things where it was like, well, it's big enough where we kind of really can't reschedule. Like, if it was something that was on a much smaller scale, we would have, but I had, parents and guardians volunteering. I had people from, so like not only my group that I, work with in activities, but also like members of other groups as well. So it was a whole thing. There was a ton of coordination that went into it. So it was just one of those, we're going to try and keep as safe as we possibly can. And I mean, for the most part, we did. Nobody ended up like sick. Nobody had heat exhaustion or, God forbid, heat stroke. And for the most part, nobody really ended up sunburnt super terribly, except for that one person, just because she is so fair skinned.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, like we said earlier, you're gonna find that in your line of work. You're gonna have a lot of pasty clients.
Pasty. I guess, we can probably do closing thoughts because honestly, we knew this was going to be a short episode.
Yeah, and also it's common sense, you know. Take care of your members as you would yourself. And if you don't take care of yourself in the sun, that's a problem.
See what I'm doing? I'm drinking flavored water.
Mm-hmm.
Might be flavored, but it's still water.
Correct.
So, basically, don't be a dick. Make sure your residents have what they need, and it is always okay to cancel and reschedule if it is too hot, because you don't want to risk anyone's life over an outing. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna do the thing, hey? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Duck lips. Those are not duck lips. I don't know what that was.
I don't know either.
So, anyways, you can find us on Facebook and TikTok at Boss Ravioli Queens. You can also email us, bossravioliqueens@gmail.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you would like to get notified every time we post a new episode. And again, I say this almost every episode. Who wouldn't? Because we're funny and relatable.
True.
Yeah. So anyways, y'all have a great week, and we will see you next time. Bye.